Hi guys, and welcome to a battle between the mighty Chosen One up against Ronin. This was played in Raptors last stream over on Twitch, so you should definitely go check it out. It was a particularly fun and strange battle, so I thought I'd bring it to you guys on the channel as well. So without further ado, let's get in here and check out the builds. So for Chosen One and his Empire, he's for once and for all trying to prove that the War Wagon Mortars are the most OP unit in the Empire roster. But we'll get to those guys in a second. For his main battle line, we do have Spearmen with shields all the way along. It looks like these guys, or at least some of them, are chevroned up as well. They're just cheap and cheerful chaff attempting to hold back the horde of High Elves and allow those War Wagons to get some decent value. In the trees here, we have a couple of Outriders. These are the guys with handguns, or not handguns, sorry, with the actual rifles. Should do a pretty decent amount of damage AP from long range. Good against Dragon Princes, anything like Cav, Dragons, and so forth. And just behind them, escorting them, we have a couple of units of Empire Knights. I quite like the synergy of rolling some cheap and cheerful Knights alongside the Outriders. Getting in there, tying up more high elite tier troops, and allowing the Outriders then to pour in that firepower and really allow you to punch above your weight. Looks like we have one more unit of Empire Knights in the back here supporting the Spearmen, an Amber Wizard coming with Flock of Doom and the Manticore Summon, and up in the sky we have the mighty Boris Todbringer riding his elegant beast here. And of course, he's going to be coming in with Foe Seeker, the Middenland Runefang as well, which gives him that regeneration, which is always nice. The White Cloak of Ulrich, and Hold the Line. So overall, a pretty decent army. But what we're all really here for is the War Wagon Mortar variety. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 of these guys in the back line. Widely considered a little bit of a meme, not quite as bad as the standard War Wagon. However, you know, they're quite expensive for their cost of a low ammunition mortar, but it does allow you to redeploy them very quickly. And up against High Elves are very susceptible to kind of explosive damage because they have quite tight ranks in their infantry, so mortars get good value. Without further ado, let's look at Ronin and his High Elf build. So he's got also fairly cheap and cheerful in the front line with a couple of units of Spearmen. And they're going to be supported with some Lothran Seaguard, who are a nice utility troop overall. They do have shields and spears themselves, but they are also a ranged unit with some fairly decent accuracy and missile damage output. So cheap and cheerful for the kind of core of his army. And once again, he's also gone pretty cheap in Cav, coming in with Silver Helms with shields. Now these guys, slightly more elite probably than Empire Knights. However, if your opponent gets the charge on them, they can easily beat the Silver Helms as well with basic Knights. So it's really going to depend on their micro, who gets those good and wise engagements at the right time. So it looks like we have 3 units of those guys overall. Right up front, we do have a High Mage here, who's coming in with a fairly decent selection of spells. We have Apotheosis for that healing, Hand of Glory, and Tempest. Now, this could be huge. If he can catch Boris in a Tempest and then hit him with the 2-1 punch of his Prince up on the Dragon here, that could be a very dead Boris very quickly. But speaking of the Prince, here is the leadership for the High Elves, coming on top of that mighty Star Dragon. Look how glorious he does look. Looks like he is naked apart from that, no, not bringing any weapons or items, just has that Star Dragon breath. But he should be able to draw Boris very effectively if he can catch him. He is slightly slower, of course. So without further ado, let's get this battle underway. So you can see those mortars are already doing a decent amount of damage across this line to these Spearmen. But Chosen One is certainly going to have to do some fantastic Empire Knight play to keep these guys alive, protect them from those Silver Helms, and make sure they get value. Looks like a bit of a disaster over on this flank though. Empire Knights are being caught by the Star Dragon, and some Spearmen coming in the rear as well, which is really not good for these Knights. They're going to take heavy damage early on. The Silver Helms come crashing in as well. You can see they're desperately trying to escape, but a lot of them are caught up on the mass of the Prince there. It looks like those guys are actually starting to rout. However, there was a little bit of trade. It seems like the Silver Helms did take a charge from the Empire Knights on this right-hand flank. Front line is starting to get underengaged. Spearman on Spearman violence, the most glorious and depressing battle of all time. These guys will be fighting for a very long time, neither doing too much damage output. So it looks like we do have our first Pharaoh Manticore Summon though. Going to be popping over onto these Silver Helms, and I think this is the correct play. The Empire really need to take out the mobility of the High Elves and allow these mortars to continue to fire. Looks like one is being focused down slightly by Lothran Seaguard. Now these guys may be absolute wet noodles in combat, but they're fairly tanky from cheap missile fire. Over in the distance, we do have our first Tempest going down as well. Looks like Boris was on the very edge of it though, and he is just about managing to scoot his boot away from that Prince. He wasn't there to capitalise on it anyway, but at least it does a little bit of damage to Boris in general. And you see some Empire Knights have been forced off and others are falling back to protect the wagons as these Spearmen do start to approach. Front line, though, not going too badly for the Empire, even though their spearmen do tend to be a little bit worse, and that is because of this constant mortar fire coming in, doing some really decent damage. You see these Lothran Seaguard are getting quite beat up here. More shots gloriously coming in here and doing a beautiful amount of friendly fire as well, which is always good to see. Spearmen were born to die in service of Sigmar, although it looks like these guys are going to be fleeing back, but, you know, that was also partly due to the Prince's big breath attack there. Spearmen in the back line just standing around trying to hunt down Empire Knights where possible. Seems like Ronan also realises he needs to take down that mobility game and really needs to win it for himself. So Boris, he's just going to be healing up over in the distance here, trying to stay as far away from the battle as possible to avoid this Prince, but he's going to need to deal with him eventually, and his best bet for that is honestly the Boris and these Outriders you see are pouring some shots in. Looks like we have Apotheosis keeping the Lothran Seaguard alive, and more Empire Knights who have rallied going to be constantly coming back to the fray and trying to hammer down these spearmen where possible. In the back line, some Empire Knights have been caught again by the Dragon Prince, which is a little bit unfortunate here. They were trying to hop on top of the Mage of High Magic, which is not a bad shout at all. They have been terrified away by this Prince, but they may rally, come back and hop back onto that guy. So it's a very even battle so far. Balance power slightly in favour of the High Elves at the moment. Some nice archer fire coming into the Outriders, which is a really good counter for these guys. But they're going to be falling back. And a little bit of a disaster here. Silver Helms have hopped into the back line on top of these War Wagons. But some Empire Knights are answering the call of Sigmar here. And are going to be rallying and charging here. Getting a nice, decent rear attack onto these Silver Helms. Looks like some friendly fire coming in from the War Wagons as well. Really trying to hammer down the Silver Helms. It's going to be a close fight. 26 against 28. Empire Knights should have the advantage with that nice big charge bonus. Of course, the Wagons will be doing tiny bits of damage in there as well. Looks like the Outriders trying to get in here and focus down the Prince where possible. But a nice Apotheosis going to keep him topped up and nice and healthy. Down in the trees, we do have our final Feral Manticore summon, trying to get on top of this Mage of High Magic, doing some really huge damage here. These Lothran Seaguard need to work as a buffer, but instead, ooh, a massive kind of claw in the back there. And this High Mage is just done for, absolutely decimated and completely shattered. A Flock of Doom coming down as well, just to add to the woes of the High Elves there. Very nice use of the Manticore, who is now unfortunately rampaged into some Spearmen, but you know, it's not the end of the day. Prince coming in for a nice snipe attempt on Boris. His melee defense just about holding up there as he's going to try and get away here. And he is very fast himself. We can see that up to 90 speed, where the Dragon only has 80. So he should be able to avoid him as much as possible, but he needs to be able to take him down. Silver Helms in the back line once again going up against Empire Knights. Both of them incredibly beaten up. The Silver Helms do have that Chevron advantage, but the Knights have the numerical advantage, dragging down those Silver Helms and those Elves from their saddles there, doing some pretty decent work. But this Prince is going to be a big problem. The rest of the battle is going relatively well for the Empire. As you can see in the back line here, some more Silver Helms shutting down the mortars, but it looks like they're deciding just to fire anyway, rather tanky up against, you know, low AP troops here. Getting some decent shots in, now aiming at the Silver Helms and assisting Boris. But once again, that Prince considered coming in there to fight Boris, but there was a big Flock of Doom. Instead, he floats up in there and does a nice breath attack on these Outriders, realising they're one of the only real threats this Prince has. He's going to be trying to focus them down. Got to be careful though, Boris coming with a nice rear charge could do some decent damage as well. Now for the main battle line, it looks like the Empire just about winning. Lothran Seaguard tied up in combat by Spearmen out. All across the board, the Spearmen are slowly dragging down the High Elves. Some Empire Knights as well doing some nice cycle charging, assisting the mortars in their dirty work down here. We do have some rallying Lothran Seaguard and Elves all around the battlefield as well. If I was the Empire, I'd probably bring Boris back here and just clean up these Silver Helms as quickly as possible, because they are slowly beating down the War Wagons. And even though they don't have too many good targets left to finish off this army, they're still, you know, add to the balance of power and so forth. So you don't want them gone, and they can help clear up, you know, the chaffy Spearmen, Lothran Seaguard, and so forth. So Prince still on the hunt for that Boris booty. Going to be hunting him as much as possible, but Boris very wisely going to use his extra speed there just to escape. Looks like the Prince here onto his dragon has had enough of this. He's instead going to start hunting down these Outriders who are lacing a few shots in the direction of these Silver Helms, but unfortunately it looks like the War Wagon's actually blocking a few of those shots. But one or two Silver Helms may get hit by stray bullets. Outriders need to pull back now. If I was them, I would take fire at will off, because they're going to need all the ammunition here to take down that nasty Prince. Looks like one of the war wagons is actually have ammunition, so his charge and forward can be used as a pretty flimsy makeshift chariot, but still that nice shock damage on the initial charge can push over a few units, as Spearmen and Spearmen do continue to fight here in what is a horrible and bloody affair by the looks of it, but realistically neither of them are doing much damage to the other. Boris trying to clean up some Lothran Seaguard. Nice play here. I'll bring him over, just finish off the archers who are firing shots in, allow the mortars to deal with the spearmen. Although it looks like maybe he's come over to try and be a good champion of the people and rescue these poor beleaguered spearmen. In fact, turn that combat very quickly and terrify those spearmen, which is a really nice play overall. In the back lines, though, we still have those silver helms slowly beating their way through the war wagons. I suppose the advantage here for the Empire is, you know, they're almost out of ammo. They've made some good value anyway, and it is distracting a 15 unit of silver helms, which could be used over here, you know, cycle charging into spearmen, helping them clear them up, and it is allowing the Empire to win the main engagement, which is very key, as they're then going to have to surround and deal with this prince. Looks like Outriders being used to chase off units as well. We have a couple of shattered units of Lothran Seaguard here. Boris being used to tidy up these fleeing troops. Poor guys just want to go home, and he's over here clawing them in the back, which isn't nice. But their prince has heard their cries of pain and is once again on the hunt for Boris. Looks like he's going to try a nice breath attack, which could do huge damage, but unfortunately, looks like it is pretty much a complete miss there. It's always a little bit risky if your opponent does spot it, but if you can get right above someone and drop a breath attack on them, it does so much damage. But a nice rear attack coming in there has pushed Boris to his healing cap, and that prince is still very, very healthy coming into the late game. Pistolers now can come over here and probably assist Boris up in the air, while the spearmen chase down the Seaguard and so forth. Some spearmen are fighting some war wagons here, which will eventually go in the favour of the spearmen, but they're going to do such little damage output, both these units. Probably going to last a while. You can see random high elves just exploding in blood while the horses kind of lightly nudge them with their heads, which is rather amusing. In the back line, it looks like those silver helms are still dealing with the war wagons. There's only one left back here. Another one has raid. Going to be firing some shots in there, but it's going to be pretty inaccurate at this range. Nope, I say that, and straight on the head of that poor silver helm does bring those guys down to just 12 models. Now over in the main line, yeah, you can see the Empire have completely won the main field here, so it is literally some beleaguered spearmen and a very healthy prince, which is going to be a real mission to take down. So Outriders here with ammunition, we have 3 volleys with these guys and 3 with them. Every single one of those bullets needs to hit this prince to give Boris the best bet. So the Empire, what they can do here is bring the spearmen into the high elf spearmen, and then when the prince commits like this, that's when you bring Boris in. Get those cycle charges and get him surrounded by the spearmen. As you can see, that looks like what he's going to try and do. Unfortunately, his spearmen do get terrified early on, but some nice attacks coming by Boris and some really decent volleys. You can see this prince's health just chugging down now, although it looks like a few of the bullets are being duped here. So both these combatants do some weird animations, both floating up in the sky. Boris now using Foe Seeker to try and escape. He does take a nasty bite in the rear there. But once again, decent shots coming in, bringing that prince down to about half health, who's decided he's going to come and assist his spearmen. Oh no, once again swoops back around, trying to hunt Boris, which he's not going to be able to catch him. So yeah, Outriders going to keep firing volleys in, but they are out of ammo now, which is a bit of a disaster. If they had, you know, a couple more rounds here, they could really punish this prince. Boris, though, going to be escaping, and it looks like he's going to be using this opportunity to charge his Outriders into these spearmen. Probably getting a rear attack here, I would assume, trying to break them as quickly as possible and force, you know, the balance of power to allow him not to have to fight the prince for the full duration of the battle. Looks like in the back line, war wagons did actually eventually beat down the silver helms of that crossfire, but those war wagons not going to be too useful with what's left on the field here. So all the Empire are bundling in now on top of these spearmen. Nice kind of constant attacks. One cav in the left when they fall back. The one on the right does swing in instead, and the spearmen are starting to waver now. Boris wants to come in and help out his friends, but he's scared off once again by the prince, who does now pop in, and he will demolish these spearmen incredibly quickly. So this is the time to strike. Boris needs to get that nice charge bonus and try and rally to his troops. Outriders are also even going into combat here, trying their best to fend off the prince, and a nice rear attack coming in as the prince does attempt to retrieve. Needs to probably turn and fight this. He's not going to be able to escape. He does not have the speed here, and he's now pinned in by these brave Outriders who have drawn their swords. They've reformed the line and charged into the enemy head on here. But they're a very mighty enemy indeed. He's going to be flinging Outriders left and right from their saddles. You can see that horse clearly had enough of this, and is going to be retreating. But Boris does come charging for a frontal assault here, and he does have the health advantage here, 2,700 against 2,600. That dragon is mighty, a huge roar in the face of Boris there, and a bit of a wing slap as well. Boris definitely having to get out of there as quickly as possible and just make the most of his mobility, constantly doing that cycle charge. We do have some spearmen coming out from the trees, and is that war wagon coming in? It is indeed. Even the war wagon has answered the call to arms. Boris once again gets a nice rear attack, and he's really starting to chunk that prince's health there. Oh, but a very nasty tail swipe. Huge damage onto Boris here, down to 1,800 health against 1,700. So they're losing health roughly a similar amount at the moment. Looks like some outrights have been terrified off, unfortunately. And oh no, Boris turned his back just for half a second there. And the prince makes him pay with a huge attack, breaking through his melee defense. And Boris is out of here. He is running for the hills. Outriders desperately being thrown in here. But that dragon is just too much. Still has over 1,000 health. And it is tearing apart Outriders and Spearmen. And it looks like a mass rout has happened. The sight of Boris fleeing, and the dragon manages to pull it out in a ridiculously close final there. So let's go to the end stats. What a game by both players here. That came down right to the wire with the Star Dragon 112 kills, really carrying the day in the end. Some really nice Silver Helms play as well by Ronin, constantly doing that pressure into the back line, forcing Chosen One to use his knights defensively and get back there and protect the heavy investment, which was the Mortar War Wagons. Now, these guys actually didn't do too bad. I feel like High Elves is one of the factions they can be reasonably useful with. As stated at the start of the battle, Mortar's very good against the tightly packed formation of the High Elves, plus they have that extra mobility. 40, 26, 94 and 62 kills is no joke, and they did a very decent job, but still a big meme, and Chosen One obviously having a lot of fun with this build in general. Nice Empire Knight play. One unit did unfortunately get caught very early on and forced off, but the other two knights really buzzed around that battlefield, not getting the most amount of kills, but just protecting the investments there. So overall, very well played to both players. Big thank you for Chosen One for sending this in. And as I said before, this was on Raptor's Twitch account. I believe his Twitch name is just Raptor, but I'll find out and pin it down in the description below anyway. Anyway, guys, until next time, peace, and stay awesome.